Hello, everyone. Wildly of Wild Fempire here, and I'm coming to you for Moonday with Live. And today, I'm really curious about exploring acceptance and how this affects our ability to move through things like scarcity mentality or move through particular situations that are incredibly uncomfortable. Like, for example, the recent Roe decision. I've really been sitting with and curious about how we employ acceptance as a tool for reorganizing our own internal systems and releasing ourselves from levels of domestication. So, what do I mean by that? I am really curious right now about how we engage with and begin to deconstruct empire in a different way than what we have seen already, right? Like, I have felt inside of myself this programming that when things I do not prefer outside of myself occur, my immediate pattern or my immediate reaction is to resist and to meet that fight energy with fight energy. And as I have sat with that in these recent weeks, it feels true to me that that's not my truth anymore. Not that there are not things worth fighting for, that's not what I mean at all. But what feels true to me is that I am being called to meet the things that I do not prefer with a different energy. I don't know what the answer is yet. I'm curious. That's why I'm exploring here. And I'm so curious to have these conversations with other people. Is how do we meet these places of non preference? How do we invite change without meeting it in that same energetic space of power over? Because, in the grand scheme of things, in the larger collective, if we continue bouncing back and forth across that spectrum of attempting to convince, attempting to take power back, even this languaging that we have all been trained with, we've all been taught to use, is the language of power over. It's the language of hierarchy. It's the language of only one person or one thought process or one entity gets to be in charge. And it's completely counter to the idea of sovereignty and sovereign space. So, this is where my curiosity is residing today. How, as a collective, as a species who is going through a monumental evolutionary process, how do we begin as individuals to hold that frequency of change without triggering and activating ourselves and continuing the narrative of the back and forth across the spectrum of the push pull of power rather than imagining what this next evolution looks and feels like. And again, I don't have the exact answers. I don't know what the answer is, but I know that I feel it. I feel it right here. I feel it in my bones that I'm being called into a different way of meeting energy that wishes to disempower. We can call it the magnetic, we can call it the feminine way. I'm not the biggest fan of that language. I prefer the energetics of the magnetic, of the invitation of creating the void in which nature can then fill it with whatever the next new idea is. But it feels really important to me at this time that those of us who can feel this evolution just outside of the corner of our eyes, right? Like I can see it, I can sense it, I can almost taste it. I know the possibilities because I have felt them in my own private life and the way in which I run my relationships. I've felt it in community that there is the potentiality to step away from hierarchical thinking. And what feels true in this moment for me is this beginning base layer of acceptance. And that can feel really tricksy. Like, I don't want to fucking accept. I don't want to fucking accept something that I don't prefer. I've been going through this in my own body, in my own perimenopausal journey. There are moments where I just want to resist the fuck out of what is. And yet that just creates a dissonance in me. It creates agitation. It creates an unwillingness to be in the discomfort of the change that is inevitably happening, whether I like it or not. So, this is where the seed of my curiosity and my question is today. How do we individually begin to step into acceptance and utilize it as a tool for navigating these waters that we don't prefer, for taking that higher, wider perspective and recognizing and feeling in to the possibility that we are sitting in the death vigil of empire. And so there are going to be lots of things that happen during this time that we don't prefer. Lots of attempts to disempower, to take over, to take from. What happens to our energy individually and collectively if we just accept that truth? There are going to be a lot of things that occur in this evolutionary time, in this period of transition that we aren't going to like, that will feel activating and triggering, that we will have emotional experiences around. All of that is fine. It's wonderful. It's not a problem. It's part of the human experience. And can we continue to soften and widen our capacity to hold that discomfort, to accept that discomfort, to not bypass it, to not talk ourselves out of it, but to just gradually and gently begin to press against the edges of what we're capable of holding without reverting back into whatever patterns we might have, whether it's comforting ourselves. I know addictions definitely have been leaning on those a lot in recent weeks, but also the addiction to getting activated, the addiction to needing to do, to convince, to change. And again, I don't necessarily have answers. I just have questions and curiosity. But what happens if we take away these words and these ideas of good and bad and right and wrong, and we step into this is what is, and now what? I don't need to resist what is. I don't have to change what is in this moment. I can be with what is. I can sit in the discomfort of what is without necessarily needing to hide it or fade it or fix it or convince someone else to behave and think and feel the way that I do in this now moment. Where does acceptance live in this evolutionary process that we're moving through? Where does acceptance find its home and its roots? How do we allow acceptance to be a tool in our toolbox so that we can continue to live our lives and be present in this whole process? It is a miracle to be alive in a body at this time. It is a miracle to be here and be witness to the evolution that humanity is going through right now. It's absolutely a miracle. And it's hard and it sucks and it's uncomfortable and it's not preferable. It's not preferable and it is still miraculous. Isn't that a conundrum? Yeah. So I'm curious. I'm curious where this musing takes you, what arises for you in your own mind, body, heart, and soul. I'm curious how you are sitting with and navigating accepting the things in your life that you do not prefer. I would love to know if you'd like to leave a comment below if you're catching the replay. Where does acceptance fit in your life? Have you even thought about it? Or is resistance to what is just such a normal part of your day that you've never really given it much space? I would be really, really curious to know. Yep, that feels like the transmission for this Moonday. I hope that it serves you well, and I will be making the Moonday message here in just a moment. So keep your eyes posted and let me know how that lands for you. Until next Moonday, take good care, and I'll tune in with you again soon. Bye for now.